Thanks for visiting Environmental Echo. We want to bring you information about a variety of outdoor nature and environmental events happening right here in the St. Louis region. And now, let's learn a little bit more about an upcoming local event. We are speaking with Larry Lazar, one of the co-founders of Climate Reality St. Louis, about an upcoming event on November 15th at Schlafly's Bottle Works in Maplewood. The event is a showing of the movie Merchants of Doubt, a film by Robert Kenner, and the event flyer says, Science versus the Calculated Climate Denial Campaign. Welcome, Larry, and thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the event and what people attending can expect.
Well, we'll be showing the documentary, Merchants of Doubt. We'll probably have 30 or 40, maybe 50 people there. We'll show the film, then after the film, we'll have a discussion and also we do have one guest speaker from St. Louis University, Dr. Jack Fishman will be there. He'll say a few brief words on his take on the film. After that, we'll have a few petitions that people can sign if they're interested, and letters to write if they're interested, and that'll be it. Other than that, it'll be some good conversation.
Okay, and it is at Schlafly's Bottle Works, so I imagine there'll be some good drinks there as well.
There's good food and good beverage, you betcha.
Okay.
Favorite places to go.
Absolutely. You at one time were a climate skeptic, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and then tell us a little bit about that and how you got involved with being a co-founder of Climate Reality St. Louis and what that organization does.
Okay, well, it's probably about 7-8 years ago now that I was enlightened. Let's call it enlightened. I was pretty narrow in my choices of media, and I'll leave it at that. And I was pretty much convinced that the whole thing was a hoax and wasn't man-made, and pretty much believed all the myths that continue to be perpetuated in much of the media. But then I'm fortunate to have a brother that lives in Alaska, and I went to visit him with my family. And one of the things you do when you're in Alaska is go tour the glaciers, and to tour some of the glaciers there, and to actually talk to some park rangers there at one of the glaciers it's near Anchorage, but we talked to one of the park rangers there, several park rangers, and they made a very convincing case that it was in fact happening, and that it was caused by humans, and that NASA and NOAA have years of research on the topic and all kinds of data to support it. And that just made me really think about it again. So I came back to St. Louis, turned off the radio, turned off the TV, read a great deal about climate change. Read that there's a 97% consensus by climate experts that it's real and caused by humans. I looked at all the different organizations, scientific organizations that agree with that position, which is virtually all of them, with no dissenting organizations, and even a lot of businesses and industries also agree that's human caused and happening. So that was quite a shock for me to learn that, and part of that I decided to get myself educated and to share what I learned, and that led me and Brian Elling and myself to form the meetup group, and we've been doing that now for I guess it's almost 3 years now. It'll be 3 years in December.
And then what does the organization, the Climate Reality St. Louis, what is their role here in St. Louis, and what do they do?
Well, we're simply an educational group. We don't try to. If people want to become involved, we'll point them in the right direction, but our focus really is educating people, and we do that through showing movies like Merchants of Doubt. We also showed some of the series of Years of Living Dangerously, which is an award-winning documentary on climate change. And we get speakers like Dr. Jack Fishman. We have presentations by different people. Well, people call in via Skype to talk to us about different aspects of climate change, including what caused it, what it's going to take to get out of it, what some of the solutions are. We talk about some of the policy implications, all kinds of different topics. If you check our meetup group page, you can see that we've had probably over 100 meetings at this point on various topics related to climate change, and I'd say it's been great success so far. It's just it's a way for people to become informed and educated, and when you're informed and educated, you become involved, and that's what we're trying to do.
One thing that I do have a question about, I know that you do a lot of speeches and do a lot of education, like we have been talking about, but climate change seems to have a lot of political discourse involved in those discussions and political ideologies. How do people get around the political divisiveness of the discussions in order to get to meaningful topics and discussions about solutions without the polarization?
Yes, you're absolutely right. It has become politicized, and that is very unfortunate. It did not used to be that way years ago. Politicians like Newt Gingrich, who was the Speaker of the House, actually did a commercial with Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat, and both of them were calling for action on climate change. Many politicians, Bob Dole, George Bush 1, were supportive of action on climate change. And it's only in the past 10 years or so, probably about 10 years ago, when it became politicized. And it really should not be. It should be something that everyone can get involved. There are solutions that don't require governmental action, a great deal of governmental action. There's all kinds of things that conservatives and people who are not traditionally environmentalists can do and act on. And that's why I'm so thankful that like the Pope is now coming out for calling on action on climate change. There are many Republican organizations calling for action on climate change. Bob Inglis, who is a former congressman from South Carolina, is leading in action and calling for a carbon tax, a price on carbon. And he has a great deal of support from many, many leading politicians, including Art Laffer, who is President Reagan's economic advisor, and George Shultz, also supportive of action on climate change. And many of the world's and the country's leading businesses are now calling for action on climate change. So it crosses all political spectrums, and we just simply have to depoliticize the issue. Our group is not about environmentalism. Our group is specifically about climate change and educate people on climate change. And I think once people understand climate change, they're motivated to act. Like me, they'll be motivated to act, and regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of whether you are environmentalist or not, once you understand climate change and the consequences and understand the responsibility that we have to our children and to our children's children and to the world's population, including our own country, you're motivated to act. And the longer we wait to act, the more difficult the challenge will become, and the more some of those solutions that we don't like will be required. And the quicker we can act, the quicker we can get policies in place and get particularly a price on carbon, the less likely we'll have to install more drastic actions and more expensive actions too. So another thing that we should understand too is the quicker we act, the less expensive, the less costly it will be. The longer we act, the more costly it will be to solve. So if you want to save money, if you want to keep government small, act on climate change and act on climate change now.
When you say a tax on carbon, what do you mean by that, and what kind of tax that would affect people's lives? Explain to us what that entails.
Well, it's a revenue-neutral carbon tax, and this is what is supported by James Hansen, Dr. James Hansen, who was the head of NASA Goddard under Ronald Reagan, and he's been the kind of leading voice on climate change, and it is also supported by Republican organizations, including Bob Inglis's. And what it is, it puts a price or a tax on fossil fuels at the point of origin or at the point of purchase. So things like gas would go up. Things like energy for homes would go up, but there would be a rebate. All the money that is collected from that tax is returned to the American people. So 80% of the population of the citizens in the United States wouldn't cost them anything. In fact, some would actually come out better ahead, particularly if they take action to reduce their energy usage, if they buy less carbon, less a car that gets better gas mileage, or take public transportation, or carpool, or things of nature. If they make their home more efficient, more energy efficient, lower the thermostat, do things like that, they could very well come out ahead financially with the carbon tax. Now, people who are fossil fuel hogs, if they do drive a great deal, or if they have a vehicle that gets poor gas mileage, if they keep their house super warm, it will probably cost them more money. And that's why it's something that motivates everyone to become more more energy efficient, and use less fossil fuels because they'll save you a bunch of money. And what's also great about the carbon tax is it does not create a government agency. It's revenue neutral, so there is no increase in revenue to the government. It's all that money is returned back to the population, much like a Social Security check. So every month you get a carbon tax, just kind of like they do in Alaska. People in Alaska get a check, and my brother lives there. He gets a check every year with the excess from the taxes collected on the petroleum that's produced in Alaska, and that is returned to the population once a year. With the revenue neutral carbon tax, it would actually be returned every month, so everyone will get a check every month. So I think there's a lot good about that in more ways than one.
Okay, well, I think that kind of makes it more clear. It's kind of like an incentive to curb habits.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
okay.
Absolutely an incentive.
Okay. All right, that explains that. How can people find out more information about this event? That's happening on November 15th at Shafley's Bottle Works. You are showing the film, Merchants of Doubt. And if someone wants more information, where do they go get it?
We have a website. It's on the Meetup group page, Meetup group. So just go to Meetup, type in climate reality, or climate, just type in climate, and you'll find our group. And you can see it there, and you can see the information and sign up to go. It's all free. Of course, if you buy food or beverage, it is it'll cost, but other than that, it's free, and there'll be good conversation and great people.
Okay. You have other meetings as well at Shafley's throughout the year.
That's correct.
Is information about that available there at the website as well?
It will be. We don't have anything scheduled right now for Shafley's, but as the events come up over the balance of the year, they'll be posted there.
Okay. Well, thank you again for your time today, and we will try to post the flyer along with this, and so hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Reporting for Environmental Echo, I'm Holly Shanks.